I own several BMWs, and for the most part they all seem to have one thing in common. They all make more power than advertised. BMW seems to be pretty conservative when it comes to talking about their cars' power numbers. My high mileage E46 M3, despite it smoking on the dyno, made more power than the factory numbers. My F10 M5 also crushed it at the dyno by making more than 600 wheel horsepower. My Supra, which is powered by BMW's powertrain, made 476 horsepower to the wheels and over 400 torque. And that car was advertised to make 382 horsepower and 368 torque crank, not to the wheels. Today I figured out to put the M2 to the test and see if BMW lied about that car as well. And I have a pretty good feeling they did. So we'll start off by getting the M2 out there, doing some street runs and seeing what's the best 0 to 60 we can get with this car and the best 60 to 130. So we'll be using Draggy today, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. We've used this device in previous videos to track the performance of cars after we upgrade certain components. You can track stuff like 0 to 60, 60 to 130, quarter mile. For your international folks, 100 to 200 kilometers per hour. It connects wirelessly to the Draggy app on your phone. You hit connect, connects to the satellite, and it's a very legit way where I don't think you can really fool the system and you can compete with others online via the leaderboards. And if you guys are interested in getting one of these, but the one thing that held you guys back was the high price point, well, we're running a very big sale on these. I highly recommend you guys check out our website. I'll have links down in the video's description. You'll save a ton of money and you'll be able to check the performance on whatever cars you guys own. The tricky part about getting a good 0 to 60 time for this car is just gonna be grip. From other automotive YouTubers and I guess journalists that have been trying to launch this car properly to try to match the time that BMW gives you of 4.1 second for a 6-speed manual, it's really hard. Even on like certain drag race videos, the M2 just kind of takes it down low because one, it's harder to launch, especially if you have a manual, and two, there's so much power and you have to control that wheel spin properly. So I'll do a few pulls here in first gear and see if we can warm up the tires, and then we'll do a 0 to 60. Not sure if you guys can tell on camera, but there was a significant amount of wheel spin at first, and then once you go into second, it was like I was doing a rolling burnout. So that was definitely fun. As far as like second gear, 40 mile per hour roll, it doesn't seem to have any slip issue. The tires seem to pull power down. Yeah, so that's traction fully off, not MDM, fully off. Second gear, 40 mile per hour roll, puts power down nicely. It's just, you know, obviously starting on first gear, that's the issue. So to get an accurate 60 to 130, I don't think it's gonna be an issue because the car makes, I guess, the right amount of power to put power down, especially with whatever tire package it has and the weight distribution. And I will mention, I guess, before anybody makes fun of any of the numbers, before I present them to you guys later on, I have an additional person in the car, obviously, that's holding the camera. So that's gonna add, I don't know, how much do you weigh, Mike? 2 something. So that adds 2 something to the car. So keep that in mind, guys. I might be able to shave a 1/10 of a second if I didn't have them in the car. So I found out today that the 6-speed manual also has launch control just like the automatic. You just gotta have the traction set to MDM instead of traction completely off. I noticed that with traction fully off, it doesn't work. But the problem with MDM is that even though it's not traction fully on, it still kind of kicks in from time to time to control the wheel spin. And I think that in order to get the best 0 to 60 or quarter mile for this car, it's just too limited. You're gonna have to have traction completely off. But for the sake of the video, I'm gonna show you guys launch control, show you what numbers we get, and then we can go and turn traction fully off and dial in the levels of that traction off that BMW recently introduced into these cars. Before we do the official run, make sure you have the drivetrain on Sport Plus, MDM mode. Put the car into first gear, hold the clutch down, then you'll floor the accelerator, and then you'll see preparing launch control, and then it'll say active. That's when you'll pop the clutch, and then you can take off. Again, I think MDM is gonna kind of slow down the time, but let's go ahead and try it out. Nice, but the performance numbers 4.8 is not very good because BMW advertises 4.1 and we're pretty far off. But it felt nice though, but I think we're gonna have to take traction fully off. Full disclosure, I am not the best driver, and I have zero experience properly launching a 6-speed manual with this much power. And obviously with an automatic, it takes a lot less skill. I'm not trying to make an excuse for myself. I'm just letting you guys know I'm not a pro driver.
We know.
And I'm not like a veteran automotive journalist.
Damn right.
We're just kind of doing this for fun, so I can get you guys some decent numbers. Like I mentioned earlier, MDM seems to limit the power a bit too much, so now I wanted to try launching it with traction fully off, which definitely requires a bit of skill that I am not afraid to admit I may or may not have. The cool thing about the car is that you have a feature called M traction control. It allows you to dial in the amount of traction control you get from the car when experiencing wheel spin. We'll try on 2, we'll go 1, and then we'll try 0 and see if we can improve our times. Go down to from 2 to 1 because you got some pretty shitty numbers after that one in the 5 seconds, so we'll do it on 1. I think number 2 was a little too aggressive. That's the fastest time we've gotten so far. Again, with the passenger on the side, we're gonna go ahead and do fully traction off. Probably takes a lot more driver skill to do, but that's going to give us the option to have the most power available and hopefully get a better time.
Oh, that was f***ing pathetic.
All right, guys, that was definitely not it. First, second, third, straight up rolling burnout.
Saucy.
Extra saucy. That's not it. So with fully traction off, that pretty much exposed how much of a driver mod on a vehicle like this that you need to get a good time. No, I did not drag the clutch, which is what most, drag racers do. I don't really want to prematurely wear out the clutch on this car when the majority of races and performance numbers I like to get are roll races and 40 rolls, 60 rolls. But obviously, if you're doing this specifically to get really good numbers, you would drag the clutch and then you would have to control the throttle so you can control that spin. But yeah, that was pretty damn intense. Yeah, traction fully off. Look at the skid marks. Yep, it's like a 10-second 0 to 60 right there. All right, so time to do a 60 to 130. With the 6-speed manual, again, you're at a major disadvantage because you lose a lot of time with shifts. So ideally, I'd like to start in 2nd gear, but I think I'll lose too much time because I'll have to shift twice. So I'm gonna start in 6th gear, maybe like 50 miles an hour and see what's the best time I can get. Yeah, that's right.
Well, we got you on video, bro.
Thought he could take the new M2. It didn't work out too well. Look, he wants another run. I will give him another run. Hit it?
Nah, I don't think he hit it. That long.
As a driver, it feels like an eternity. I got to 132. I was like, ah! 1.74. Guess that's different for me because with my 890 single turbo, I think I got into the 6s. With the M5, I got into the 7s, and then with the Supra, I don't quite remember. But this is also a stock car. Once you tune this car, add some downpipes, add some extra modifications, and maybe some E85, I'm sure we can shave this time almost at least by 40%. We'll do one more, just to make sure that that was the fastest we can get. As you guys can see, we shaved 0.20 seconds, approximately 11.53. Still kind of slow, but it is a stock car and it feels fast. But anyways, 11.53. I later ended up doing a third run off camera, with this time with no passenger, and the fastest 60 to 130 time I could get was 11.15 seconds, which has me so confused. That is pretty slow. The fastest 0 to 60 time we were able to get was 4.56 seconds, still about half a second away from getting the 4.1 seconds BMW advertises for the 6-speed manual M2. But we have a few things going against us. We are not on a prep surface, there's a passenger in the car with me, and there's half a tank of gas, and most importantly, me, the driver. So we made it to Eurocharge Orlando, about to put the M2 on the dyno and see how much power it really makes. Before we get the M2 on the dyno, I want to quickly go over the specs on the G87 M2. It is a fully stock car and only comes in one variant. There's no competition, there's no CS, at least not yet. So all the new 2023 M2s make the same power. According to BMW, they make 453 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque crank. It's time to see how much power the car actually makes to the wheels. So here's the very first run. Keep in mind, intake temperatures are pretty high. The car has been sitting here for a while we were trying to calibrate everything, which took longer than expected. But even with the heat soaking, 470 horsepower to the wheel, which is already higher than what BMW advertises on their website, and 400 pound-feet of torque. And here's what the graph looks like so you guys can see where the horsepower and the torque peaks at. The torque seems to peak relatively soon at around 3,500 RPM, and then it has a little bit of a fall off up top. And then horsepower climbs all the way, and once you get up to like red line 7,500 RPM, that's where you peak. I'm telling you guys, these numbers are probably gonna be like worst case scenario, because it is very hot in Orlando, Florida today. The humidity is really high, like 56 or 60%, and it's 98 degrees Fahrenheit. It is very hot. Add the fact that the M2 had a bit of heat soak and it still made that much power, which is very impressive, and this is why the S58 is such a powerhouse. Totally sucks that I forgot the MHD wireless adapter, so I couldn't look at the parameters and see how hot the temperature was for like the intake.
Stupid idiot.
Oh well, anyways, let me show you guys the graph for the second run. I think you guys are gonna be very surprised. 473 horsepower to the wheel, which is unbelievable, and 400, again, pound-feet of torque. And here is the graph. 473 horsepower to the wheels, and BMW advertises 453 horsepower crank. If you take the 473 and times it by a conservative powertrain loss of 15%, you're left with 543 horsepower to the crank. Nearly 100 more horsepower than advertised. BMW lied, case closed. If you enjoyed the video, do me a solid and hit the like button. It really does help. And make sure to subscribe because I'm going to start modifying the M2 very soon and you do not want to miss out. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.